34 years are still unemployed, with those even transitioning to the labor and job market don't have the right skills. A recent study as well says 87% of Gen Zs are ghosting employers even after having successfully gone through the recruitment and training process. It also begs the question, what exactly do Gen Zs want in the workspace, and how can employers ensure that they accommodate a demographic or a population of the youthful generation? And that is the conversation we are delving into. I'm going to be engaging Skylar Ndumba. She's a lead HR and admin at JCVs, alongside Aneli Mike. He's a medic and an assessor, alongside Kimani Patrick. He's the CEO of Calstick Group Limited. Great to have you guys today. It's a panel, right? So I'm going to start off with that lady. What do Gen Zs want in the workspace?
I think Gen Zs want flexibility in the workplace. They want to be able to have time for themselves, more or less their mental wellness and their mental health. The whole 8 to 5 days a week, or in some cases working on the weekend, is not really appealing to them, I'd say.
Yeah. Right. So you but you're a HR, but you're speaking with the authority and and the title and the prominence of a HR. So you're definitely right. Let me jump on to you sitting next to me. That is Andeli. What do you think Gen Zs want in the workplace, even from the interactions you've met, in those you've interacted with, and what you've heard, and even observed as well?
I think what they really need in their space or in their area is the communication thing. I think they have their own language that somehow we are not translating into our own. And somehow we have not deciphered the language in a proper manner that we can have an understanding between the two generations, or the old generation to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Would you say maybe most, but let me throw it to you. Would you say most companies are owned by, let's say, millennials or even boomers? And so he's mentioned a very important part of misunderstanding. You know, this other generation gap wants people that are conversational, interactive, and more accommodative, and flexibility. She's mentioned that. Do you believe maybe there's a gap that needs to be, let's say, filled in terms of, let's now calm down to the levels of these youngins, let's get to understand their mindset, so that we put a structure in our organization that accommodates them and favors them?
I think from our own experience, there needs to be a middle ground. It's not who is coming to whose level, but from our own experience working with the younger generation is young people want to be seen, young people want to be heard, young people want to be in a place where they find purpose, young people want to be in a place where they make contribution that is aligned to their values, that is aligned to the direction they want to grow their career. They want to feel and be in charge. And that is what we've been able to do even in my organization where I work at Calstick.
Yeah. Sitting
down with every single person during the onboarding process and asking them, you're here, you've qualified for the job, you've passed the interview, let's talk about what brings you here. What does success look like in your own expectations? What does success look like in this job role that you have been hired for? And then they talk about their experience, their expectations, I talk about my expectations, and you are able to reformulate the job description again and reformulate the KPI, so that we are able to understand exactly what success means to both of us in this role. If you are able to agree, we work together. If you're not able to agree, then definitely there's no need to work together. Yes.
Would you say majority of institutions are still doing that, employment institutions? Would you say that they're doing what exactly you just said?
I know a couple of people, my friends who run businesses, who are doing that, but in other organizations, I don't have, information from their internal processes to say organizations are doing this, organizations are doing that. But there's a lot of organizations that are still rigid and find these young people very volatile, not being able to be, they are not listening, their communication styles are not in line to what their experience has been, and therefore there is such a disconnect. But I would say most organizations are catching up, because even I myself was not like this. We used to fight quite a lot.
You'd say as a millennial, you had to hustle your way, actually. And you had to, be disciplined, right?
Yes.
And there are so many things that actually go into, getting into a corporate institution. But let me jump on to you, Skylar. According to this new research study that says 87% of the Gen Zs are ghosting employers, and now those that are already in the workspaces are having, I'll say, overbearing demands. They're requesting for, you cut down my working hours, reduce my workload. I can't clock in at 6:30 a.m., make it 8 a.m., and I'm not staying till 5 p.m. I have a content creating schedule. But then let's stay on the ghosting part. What could make a Gen Z not to show up or become a no-show? As a HR, of course, you have that. Sometimes you do, but depending on I believe also the hierarchy of the organization. HR calls you, tells you, you know what, hi, congratulations, you're reporting to work on Monday. But this Gen Z who's been trained all through, they have been interviewed, they've gone through the rigorous, training process, they're not showing up and they're not giving you even an answer, and they're not picking up the phone calls, returning emails, or even text messages. What could be prompting them to do that?
Honestly, I feel like the whole process, before you even recruit this individual, they've gone through the process, and before you go to the interview, of course, you should do your research on the company that you're going to. And I think first it seems to there's a gap in that, because before you get to the interview, you should know what this company is about. Does it align with your values? Does it align with what you want to do, the impact you want to make? So that's why in an interview, these are commonly asked questions we HR ask. And we ask, what is your, in 2 to 3 years, what is your goal, and how do you think it aligns with this job, and how is this job going to help you, move further along towards your goals? And that's a really key question that you should ask yourself, even before you step into that interview, even before you accept that call. So I feel like when they ghost, I'd say, because we'd find ourselves, you've called 10 people for the interview, and 5 people are showing up. And you're wondering, okay, you called, and you confirmed, we asked you if this is a convenient time, communication was there. So you ask yourself as a HR, what's the issue? Why it a more senior role? Speaking from experience, all 10 candidates would show up. So I feel like the reason why Gen Zs are ghosting is because when the reality hits them, that what is expected of them, and they figure out, okay, this is, I don't think I signed up for this. They step back. And so when you reach out, they're not picking your calls, or they're not showing up, or maybe when you check them out, you see that they're doing other things. And you're wondering, okay,
what's not happening? Even from the viral clips that have even been captured by blogs, even written on newspapers. I remember the first one was an article by Nation. There's those who are expressing dissatisfaction and saying, you know what, I've been, maybe they clocked into work, like let's say for 2 weeks, and then now they're like, I don't like that manager, I don't like the way he speaks or she speaks, this I can now realize that this is not what I signed up for, just like what you've said. Don't you think maybe some of them are actually trying to just find out that, you know what, I was not meant to be in the corporate space. I belong to the streets of digital content creation, and now that I've tested the waters, I know better.
I think on that note, I feel like Gen Z, especially when you worked for a few weeks, I think even me when I started working, after 4 weeks, you have a meeting with yourself and you're wondering, okay, did I sign up to wake up every day, 8 a.m. I have to be in the office, 5 p.m. I have to be out. And maybe if you ask for overtime, I'm sitting in the office past 5 p.m. Is that really how the corporate space is, how it's working? So I feel like most Gen Zs are also looking at business, entrepreneurship as another form of, I don't have to,
to make a living
in the corporate space. And I feel, honestly, what somebody should ask themselves is the alignment. Because I feel like when they start a business, some of them are really thriving in the entrepreneurship space. It's because maybe they're doing what they love. They'd be up very early, whether it's in fashion, whether it's in very many things, whether it's content. They know this hour I have to make content, this hour as well I have to post, I have to edit. They're doing what they love, and they make sure they're delivering. So where it should come in, you should find out if it's something you like doing, that corporate space, that specific industry. You find them, people do, it's not all Gen Zs. Some Gen Zs are into the corporate space, like myself. I enjoy it.
I'm
a Gen Z as well, and I love the corporate space. It has its ups and downs for sure.
Even the content creation space has its own ups and downs.
Yes, every industry has its ups and downs, and so you have to look inwards and figure out if that's what you want. And for sure, you'd show up for it. If it's something you actually enjoy doing, they'd show up for it.
Still on you, Skylar, but I'd like Mike to react on the same question as well. There's, from the viral videos that have gone circulating on social media, some of them are pointing out, you know what, I don't want to be supervised a lot. Don't be on my neck all the time. Don't hassle me. Don't stress me all the time. Oh, you're supposed to click here. They want to do it their own way because they know it, and they are also conversant with this. They are tech savvy, and now with artificial intelligence, they are like, you know, the creme de la creme of tech and automation. So what do you think as a HR working with a Gen Z who doesn't want to be, you know, all the time be reminded, today we are doing this, so click on this system and do this and this. They want to do it in their own version and style.
I think honestly working with Gen Zs, it's such a creative space, an innovative space, ideas flying around. Everybody has something to give. And I think in that sense, we need to collaborate as HRs and as not even just Gen Zs, the entire generational difference that's within your company. We need to collaborate and find, you know, be able to delegate work as HRs. You know, by the way, watching somebody like a hawk is not the way to go. I feel like that actually limits them. It limits them. They can't even add their own spice to what they're doing, and you know, the end results might be better than the way you are prescribing at first, like this is how you should do it and this is it, and they come with something new and it actually works differently.
And it works. Incredible. Let me jump on to you, Mike. They don't want to be reminded all the time what to do, wanataka wafanye in their own way, but then also remember, this is a business. If it's a corporate institution, you have a vision and a goal of achieving some, let's say a target. You have a target, you want to, you know, by the end, let's say, of this week, we want to have these numbers, this and this. So you can't just have somebody operate, you know, outside the guidelines or the precincts of, you know, the work structure. But that's what Gen Zs want. They want to do it in their own version and stuff. Do you think maybe at some point workspaces should adjust their, let's say, work systems so that at least they accommodate these youngins? Now that, you know, can't see majority of them do not have opportunities, and Federation of Kenya Employers says it's the percentage is 67. That's a massive number.
No, I'll bring it in this manner. She's an HR. When they are employing individuals to come in, there's that work role they give to each and every individual. When individual comes in, they get, this work is not what they're doing. It's a bit large. There is when we have conflict of interest with agencies, because these are individuals who have been told, you have rights to speak to what you want to speak to. You can say what is not fit for you. You can go ahead and quit. That's why, what happens when you receive a call in the middle of the night, I'm not coming tomorrow? Now, I'll pose another question. What if you're in a Gen Z's shoe, then an HR calls you and tells you, you're fired? Should I write to the HR, or should the HR give me 2 weeks to wait so that I can arrange myself, then be fired? No. So I think we are pointing fingers at each other, but at the end of it, we have the solutions for everything, and then we have the bomb to construct everything. If you look at it very well, more so on the Gen Z issue of appearing to work, I think the company culture, we have carried the culture for years, and we want this culture to remain within the organization. Now, this generation of ours comes in with very new ideas, very new way of doing things, technology with it, flexibility with it, and we are not willing to accept that change. as far as we are not willing to accept that change, we are not moving forward, because we are supposed to be one team. That's why we are hitting each other each and every time.
Yeah. But don't you think maybe it's a double-edged sword? Because if you are business-oriented or entrepreneur, or let's say you are a very competitive franchise, you have a target of hitting the numbers. So would you stoop down and adjust to accommodate this demographic of talent, or move with the people that will be assimilated quickly into your system? Because remember, you're also doing business in your own way, not in the employee's way. Yeah.
I think you have said they are talented. As far as they are talented, we should give them a chance to show us what they can do.
So that means there's possible adjustments
Yes.
as time goes by.
Yeah, there are very big adjustments that should be done on our workforce,
Yeah.
and we need to adjust them. Remember, this generation of ours is working with other generations which are not willing to adjust. And we cannot just...
So it's a generational, you say it's a cultural generational thing, or already pre-existing issue?
No. Each and every time, each and every generation has been pointed with this issue. You are lazy, you are not coming early to work, because there is always that shift. This discussion has either happened to the other generations, the same, but...
It's just like these ones, they are more like advocates.
Yes.
Are attacking, and they say it loudly.
Yes, and that's what they...
And that's what they want.
Yeah.
It's either you do it or you don't. Let me jump on to you, Kimani. If you're a CEO of a company and you expect people to do the right thing, yeah?
Yes.
But here there's a demographic of a people that says, okay, you're used to doing it the way you want, but if you want me to be a part of your thing, then adjust it so that I can be a part of it. And then there's, he's mentioned about a systematic cultural thing. Do you believe maybe as time goes by, companies should be now forced to actually, let's say, cut down on the demographic of these older people, and also try to assimilate this new fresh talent and start learning? It's now an institution learning the employees, not employees learning the institution. She's mentioned, if you're being employed at an institution, you're doing your research, you know. Unajua, hey, kampuni ilianza 1970, imekuwa hapa for 50 years, their work culture is this and this, so if I go there, I expect to behave in a certain way. But now, it's you putting yourself in a position where you have to study these people coming in. Will it affect your operations as a company and your targets and goals?
If you're asking about my specific company, the answer is no, because I'm the only millennial, everybody else is a Gen Z. But I also
wow,
think
that's unique. That's unique. And you're a CEO.
Yes.
That's unique.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I also think in this rising trend where Gen Z is taking up the majority of the jobs, Gen Z and millennials, I think traditional organizations that have been there for decades need to, you see the way we say this organization is disability friendly. I think we also need to have companies that say this is a Gen Z friendly work environment, or this is not a Gen Z friendly work environment, so that we do not have that disconnect of expectations. However, the key thing here is knowing exactly what your role demands of you. It is knowing exactly what success means to you. It is knowing exactly what my expectations is for you, so that even when I tell you to do things, it's not just me telling you, it's us coming together and resolving. Remember, we are building this company together. It's not the management versus the employees. It's not the older generation and the younger generation fighting. It's all of us united for the common mission of the organization, and making sure that this mission and this vision we are driving forward, and this campaign or this current focus of the organization, everyone is in line and everybody understands exactly where we are headed and where we are headed there, and making sure that now, when all of us agree and understand, we all come together also to formulate the strategy that we can actually be able to be fully part of. Let me give you an example. A couple of years ago, I was this very traditional kind of a team leader where working hours is 8 to 5, you come late, you have to explain why you are late. And guess what happened? There was definitely resistance. You want me to be there at 8 a.m.? I'll be there at 8 a.m. But trust you me at 5 p.m.? I'm already out. And I had to do a lot of research and study and, you know, talk to my team and HR consultants and other.
And what did you find out from your research?
And other people. And one of my friends who runs a business asked me, why exactly do you want people to come at 8? Is it because they have to be there to work, or is it just a you thing? And then that is when I realized, actually, if people understand exactly what their role entails and they own their projects, I really don't need to care what time they come into work and what time they leave to work. We are an on-site working environment, but nobody cares what time you come to work, nobody cares what time you leave, as long as you deliver on your work. So we sit down on a project and we agree, these are your deliverables. I make sure you understand, and we discuss the timelines. I don't impose timelines on my team unless it is a time-bound project. So make sure you understand with the person. You set timelines together, you set deliverables together, and let them do the work, because you hired competent people. Why tell them what to do? Why tell them? Why push things on them? They have a mind of their own. They are professionals. Just let them decide, of course, professionally, how they're going to do the work, as long as you reach the objective that
then your organization
is
is interesting, because you're mentioning nobody cares about the time they clock in. I can imagine if it's a radio job, you have to clock in at 6 a.m. because that's a serious morning break. Even this show, you can't come in at your own time. You must be here at least by 5:55, and you're coming at 7. That means you'll not host the job, and that means, boy, you're fired. So
you know, every organization and operations is unique and different. You know, for you have to be here on site. If you're running a restaurant, you can't be a waitress or a chef and say, oh, you know, I want to come at 9, and you know, there is no shift at 9, and probably your shift starts at 6 a.m. because customer starts tripling in at 6:30. So you have to look at your organizations and look at your operating procedures, and then you sit down with the people who are part of the operating procedures and agree. You know, even in a restaurant, let's say your operating hours is 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And you know, your team is dynamic. There's some people who are parents, they have kids they have to take to school. There are people who are Gen Zs, they want to sleep and wake up at 9 a.m. So don't impose shifts on people. Sit down with them and ask them, at what time do you feel more creative? What time do you feel more productive? Are you more productive in the morning hours? Are you productive more in the evening hours? And then you're able to say, oh, these people can work well in the morning because they want to have a family time in the evening. These people want to be at home in the morning and then you know, work all the way to
clearly night. You're the next person hiring all the Gen Zs in the near future, because your organization is very unique. I love to visit.
You're much welcome.
But still on you, and then I love also Skylar to react in a HR's mindset. They want their workload reduced. Hawataki unipe tasks zenye I'm spending like 6 hours to finish, and pure reduce session. To my working hours pia is quite like I'm clocking in at 8 like you said, or 9, and then I'm leaving at 5. Wacha ishe 12 ama 2 ni switch to content creation ama ni in the event mahali. How do you keep up with such as a serious organization that's future oriented, goal oriented or result oriented? Umpunguzie na pia anataka pay iko adjusted. So wezi nipea tasks zenye I'm supposed to do. For example, reduce tasks zikwe in 3 hours, the workload. So should the pay also reduce, or I should also triple?
Remember, from my own way of work, we don't work with hours, we work with projects. So it's you to decide whether you will do it in 1 hour or 3 hours or 1 week.
Will that determine the pay as well, or whichever the project? If it's $500, it's $500. Whether
whole other organization, because you have to look at the financial position of the organization, you have to look at the growth strategy of the company. Because if I promise you money that I can't afford, then we'll be at loggerheads when it comes to pay. And that is why, and she will tell you, there's a very big campaign, and I'm a very big campaigner of that campaign, whereby if you're advertising for a job position, you have a budget in mind. Just put it there so that only those people who are comfortable working at that pay can be able to apply and be able to work at that position. However, in your question regarding working hours and all those things, it becomes a non-issue when you put when you align the right people with the right projects within their capabilities, areas in which they have passion, areas in which they want to grow. And this whole conversation about additional tasks, additional hours, less hours. It is no longer an issue. We have to move from hours and all those things to delivering value.
Yeah.
Are we
Okay.
delivering value to our clients that they will appreciate and in turn pay us to be able to pay
Yeah.
you?
But you know, Pierre, in this job descriptions, it says you're beginning your job as a radio presenter. Your
Yes.
clocking in time is 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. So I'm trying to also picture a job description with the organization. Maybe yours is adjustable when you appear. Because most of these things, even with HR, they'll issue by email. So utajisomea tu kwa utakuja hapa kufanya hizi formalities zingine. So your organization is really unique.
I'll
once
tell you
again.
something that
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we implemented. And when I call somebody, whether it's for a job or an internship, I ask them how much do you we agree on the work. First of all, duties you want to undertake, department you want to participate in, because you can.
Is
do
it
any
contractual
department
or it's more
yes,
freestyle?
It's
contractual.
It's freestyle, but then we enter into freestyle. But then I ask you, how much would you like to be paid on this role?
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
and then
I
if
love
it's
that
something,
question.
if it's something we can afford, then we
Question
take
about
you in.
pay.
If it's something we can't afford, then we let you
I
go.
wish somebody would ask me how much you'd love to be paid, bro. When am I hitting that road next? But let me throw it to you, Skylar. They want the workload to be reduced, the working hours. As a HR, when you're having this conversation with this employee, why are you breaking it down? Are you breaking it down from the tasks highlighted in your job description, or also from an individual standpoint as a professional? Of course, if you're a big shot, you have I believe you have a bigger bargaining power. I can imagine even in media. In media, it's a thing. You know, if you are powerful, you are syndicated, you have more say even than the HR just because of you. But then I'm looking at this other, you know, let's say a typical Gen Z in the workspace or even millennial. Wanataka umpunguzie hizi vitu maandika kwa job descriptions ziko kama 12, but to adjust to toy na pay kwa 170 kama ilikuwa 100, you know. How are you having this conversation?
Actually, one thing I just have to mention what I love about Gen Z is the boldness, especially when you ask the question on how much do you want to be paid. It's crazy, but I like it because I feel like they know the kind of value they bring, and if the role was offering 20,000, somebody's asking for 50. Yet somebody in, I'd say maybe a millennial or somewhat as a different role, you're offering between 50 to 60, which has actually happened in my case.
Yeah.
And they stick to.
They stick to what's written there.
Niko sawa na 60. I'm like, you don't want to.
I like it. I think you
okay.
deserve more.
I think you know.
But Gen Z, even when they don't deserve it, they still say it.
Yeah, they'd still
Yeah.
you know, be vocal about it, and you know, I know I deserve 50, not 20. But back to your question, as Kimani said, it depends on, you know, the kind of industry you're in.
Yeah.
Same way he deals with projects, and now, for example, myself, I'm in consulting. So there are times you're not, I'm consulting for various, you know, companies. So sometimes you're not in the office, and for us, we also do work with a millennial boss, and the rest of us are Gen Zs, and we love it. So you find yourself, sometimes you can even work from home. It's a policy that we have. You can work from home if, you know, the workload isn't that much, or the kind of project working on in terms of consulting. But if you go into industries like healthcare, and as you said,
even
hospitality, security, you can't be telling me, I've told you the job description is you know, at 8 to 5 or in the evening. You can't tell me, okay, no, I only want to work from, you know, 8 to 1 and leave. That's not really gonna work. And that's why even when we are posting, we try very hard to be clear as a day in the kind of communication we are approaching out there to potential employees, job seekers, and be clear on the job requirements as well as the job description, what is required of you. And so when you come in for the interview and you're already aware of these things and you pass, and we tell you, and you come in, of course there's the onboarding process. We take you through and we want to understand this is the job description, and you also, of course, you have a contract that you sign, which you should definitely read, and because it outlines your job description, what we require from you as an employee, and also what you can get, what you should get from us as your employers. So if your job description is outlining a variety of things, you should be able to, you know, work on them. And it should also be, I throw it to the HRs, they should also be accommodating in the sense that not really accommodating, they should also be aware that you've told them this is the job description. Why are you giving them things that are other,
they say other assignments that are not in the
that are not in the job
description.
description, and so even them they're wondering, okay, I came
and a
here.
Gen Z would indicate, umesema niende chai, nikuende chai, sioni hapa koi.
I'm not saying it.
And they'll tell you no, yeah?
Yeah.
Ama umesema nivae black and white, sijaona kuvaa filirinda mahali. Yeah, amekuja na crop top yake, na acrylics, but so here you are. So I think it's a valid thing in the workspace, actually.
So I'd really put it to the HRs, so why are you giving somebody beyond their tasks? Because also that brings a bit of confusion in the workspace. If I'm here in the capacity of an admin, why are you giving me tasks that are not within that scope? Or I'm in HR and there's finance separate from HR, or are you giving me tasks of, of finance?
You are hired as a receptionist, but here you
can
are
I add
cooking.
something to what she's talking
You're
about?
cooking in the kitchen.
Look at it this way. We are living in difficult times, and the economy is really stressing businesses. Would you be okay as a Gen Z employee? There is, due to low business activity and reduced business, your role has not much work because of reduced business, and there's some other work, increased work on another department that requires you to undertake. Would it be okay to be declared redundant because of course there's no work in your department, or you would like to pivot, and take up tasks in other departments as you wait for things to have more activity that will give you more work in your department?
Yeah. Impressive.
Because that is a conversation.
Actually, I agree with you. Here there's communication between, I believe, should be employer and employee. So, dear HR and then dear employee. What is happening here? This again brings me to outside work. How do you communicate with your boss in terms of now messaging? Because if you're working with people, it means you have a relationship with each other, and that actually helps the workspace to develop. Even as a HR, your role is to develop employees, I believe, yeah? So how do you communicate? Do you still keep the work lingo, or you can even still be able to say, hey Mary, niaje, ama Jerry? Yeah. Does it still stay dear employee, dear HR?
I think in all honesty, it depends on the kind of culture that's within the company and the kind of relationship that's there, also the kind of relationship that management has allowed there to be in the workspace. So, for example, it's a good thing. People tend to have WhatsApp groups that you communicate, aside from emails, because emails sometimes I send an email to you at 4 p.m. and by the time you're seeing it, it's tomorrow morning. So also, it's I'd say it's good to keep that professional lingo sometimes, because there's a boundary per se, because this is still your employer, and you're still an employee. So you can't just, the way you talk to your best friend, the way you talk to your friends, it shouldn't be exactly how you talk to your employer.
Okay. What do you think, Mike? Would you keep that professionalism of dear sir, dear mom?
No, according
Madam,
to this, according to this generation right now, I wouldn't mind somebody texting me, as far as they have not disrespected me. But to the older generation, this is disrespect. But look at it. Who gave birth to this generation? Z. X. Some millennials, right?
Yeah.
These are the time. Kimani, during your time is when you used to go play football, then come home late, very dirty, and be beaten.
I thought you would use another example.
No, it's a quick one. To us, we will go for a PS until evening, and nobody will ask. Actually, it will be brought to the home.
Yeah.
We will be like, Mom, yeke hapo nitakula hiyo chakula. So the same thing is trying to portray here. It's the same communication we used at home. Okay?
Yeah.
We are portraying it here. We have not disrespected anybody. It's just the way we work. Kimani at that time could work very hard with football. I could work very hard with the keyboard.
Yeah.
It makes work easier. That's how I am.
Yeah.
So you can't blame this person.
Yeah. You can see also the emojis are there. Yeah. Yeah. Because maybe it's a thumbs up, it's a thumbs down. I'm a DHR. To say, you know, in group chats, the way you're typing, so you'll be doing this and then thumbs down. Yeah. And that's it. No other word, no other statement.
But again,
But he has said he'll keep up because...
look at the time.
Sorry, yeah.
If you look at the time,
151.
it is exactly, the guy has responded after 1 minute.
Yeah.
It has not taken long. To you, you'll appreciate somebody texting you so quickly.
Yeah, actually
Yeah,
do.
but
I love quick texters.
try texting Kimani.
Yeah.
I'm actually wondering what he's saying.
But even if he's a CEO, he needs to answer me.
Yeah, but you know, villagers are
No, I have time on WhatsApp.
I'm sure Nabianga wouldn't to me email.
No. I actually hate emails. I read, my emails are read by somebody else. I prefer WhatsApp most of the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time, yes. WhatsApp is fast, convenient. I mean, I'm always on WhatsApp. Who is not on their phone? I mean, your phone is there, your phone is there.
Yeah.
It's easy to see what is going on and communicate. But I think, you know, this thing of calling somebody dear, I personally hate it. Just call me Kimani. I mean,
Hi,
you know,
Kimani. Hi,
yes,
Sam.
or hi Kim. No, leave alone those highs and titles and everything.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
we are in this together in the first place. I think that is what organizations need to
Lack, actually. Like
to ingrain in their
relationships.
yes, we are in this together. We are human beings. We have emotions. We have ambitions. The same way we could relate at home or in class, let's relate the same way here. You know, in the same way, let me use this example. We have all been in school, especially in high school or primary school, whereby some teachers are very uptight, you know, mimi ni mwalimu, you are students, there is no relations.
You can even
and
see
then
the principal, the way he relates to TP,
yes.
teaching practice.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yes.
a huge, it's like two different kingdoms of light
Yes.
and mini light.
Yeah, let me finish with this example.
Yeah.
You will find there's some other teachers who are very playful. They'll come during break time. They'll have lunch with you. And, you know, you will have that closeness. And you will find as students, they're more close to the teachers who come down to their level. And they're able to relate human to human.
There's a
And
relationship.
the teachers who are like Wakahuku and the students are here, the relationship is very cold and all that.
uptight.
And I believe it's the same thing with organizations. The more you create a line between the management and the employees, the more you will have tensions. The more you come closer together and understand each other and relate as human beings, have a lot of, you know, people are even able to share as many ideas as they can, including, even if those ideas are about team build or going out for a hangout and all that, you're able to come closer together and there will be, you know, very easy to communicate without somebody thinking for 1 hour, now I have to text my boss that tomorrow I'll not be at work. I mean, just something comes up and then immediately they send a text because this person will understand.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want us to shift to the toxic work culture part, but I want us to talk about pay, and still I'm coming to you, Mike. When it comes to negotiating for pay, let's say you've been hired, you've been told, hi, you're reporting to work on Monday, but this is the starting salary. But I also understand even in the media space, there's intermediate, and intermediate journalist means you're just, you know, trying to ingratiate yourself in the profession. You're not on that expertise level. And then there's that intermediate who has a bit of experience. They're, you know, they have roots and grounding, but they're not yet syndicated. But then now here you're a big shot. So how do you negotiate for salaries between a starter, an intermediate, and then a big shot, let's just say an expert? I believe that would be the right word in terms of pay. How do you break it down?
How do you break it down for the
From starter, intermediate,
somebody
and
who's coming in to the
yes.
company? I think honestly, you know, there's of course benchmarking, benchmark as HRs in terms of compensation and benefits, which are offering for certain roles and at what level. And there's a thing that has come up: you can't pay different salaries for the same position. People who are in the same position, you can't pay different salary. So when it comes to breaking it down, we're able to break it down in the sense that if you're in entry level, normally the stipend of an intern is 25 if you know, get a really good place. Some people don't offer anything, but normally the range is 25,000.
That is for a starter.
Yeah, that's for a starter.
Intern level, entry level.
Entry level for sure. And then as you go on from there, you can negotiate. That depends on how long you've stayed. You know, some internships are a year, some internships are 6 months. So afterwards you negotiate and then you bump up from there. That is around, also depending on the kind of nature of work that you do. there's so much that goes into salary structure and the like. So you can't really say that when you can't really put it in the sense that when you're having to give somebody that breakdown of the salary, so many things go into that decision of how much you're paying them. Same case to a really senior level position. Some positions you end up paying people 170,000. Really senior management roles, and 70 over 100K, or when it's mid-level, it's ranging from 70 to 100K.
Yeah.
So much, I would say so much goes into it, honestly.
Yeah. Would you say sometimes it could be, the pay could be 50K, but due to your negotiation skills and just, because I believe also organizations hire on likability, especially even in media. I pointed out media a lot because that's where I've been all through my life. They hire you based on likability on air, also how you deliver, you know, your previous reputation. So would you say somebody's negotiating power can actually land them to a bigger pay than somebody who, oh, it's 60K, so Nanza Lini Tuesday, boom, they begin. Yeah.
For sure. If the company had a budget, you know, of course, as I said, there's a budget that you're offering. And so let's say for us, for example, I'm in consulting.
Yeah.
The client has told us, you know, this is a budget. We had 70 to 80, we're fine, and we can go higher.
Yeah.
So when they say, when it's fixed, we don't really, you know, go beyond that because that's a budget.
Yeah.
But if they say, you know, you can go beyond, if they are asking for more,
Yeah.
we can. That's something we can look into. We're not opposed.
In the future,
Yeah,
as you
in the
perform.
future,
Yeah.
as you
Or
perform.
it's performance based.
Performance based.
Because
or
appraisals,
even,
they should be at the core of that. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. If performance based, or even as a starter,
Yeah.
if they say, you know, if you said it's 80 and they say 90, that's something they can work around, or 85, that's something they can work around.
Yeah.
But honestly, an interview, I believe, it's selling yourself, selling your skills.
Yeah.
So if somebody's
Whether you're
able
a
to-
starter,
whether you're
intermediate,
honestly,
expert, whatever. Yeah.
because I've definitely seen the differences, even as, you know, doing interviews. As I've given an example earlier,
Yeah.
somebody who's in a millennium is asking, okay, 60
Yeah.
is fine. I can
They,
work with
they
that.
agree with
I
the
can work
suffering.
with that.
The
Honestly,
suffering.
yeah, and you're wondering, oh, okay.
But a Gen Z is like,
Gen Z is
ametoka tu
asking-
uni the other day na
Yeah,
anasema
and
anataka
I'm
150.
demanding. Yeah,
Yeah.
I want that.
So
And
they know their
honestly,
value, right? I
you
think
know,
that's
I'd
what we're
say,
seeing.
honestly,
And these
that's what we're
organizations are
saying.
not ready to adjust, right? They're not ready.
It's not about being adjusting because you can't come and ask for a senior level pay with an intermediate level or an entry level experience. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't match.
But amesema they know their worth and by me being here, first of all, niko na followers TikTok, unaniambia nini wewe hauna. So akona higher bargaining.
Most of our companies or people who want to employ people, they want interns. A lot of the companies, first of all, takes interns. You can accept that. When these interns comes in, they are working the same work the managers are doing. All the work is paid to them. Most of them are not paid. And most of them are our generations. So they're like, if I'm working this particular role, I'm having even more role than these guys told me. Why am I still here? That's one. Two, the payment, even whatever you're earning right now, Kimani, is never enough. So you can imagine somebody wanting to give you a role, adding more role, and he's not adding money. And he cannot cut short your time. What will you do? And as we have said, this is a generation where they think they want to be very, 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 very flexible with whatever they're doing. So if somebody is in a moment he wants to be very flexible, very good at work, he wants to do his work diligently, then you're not giving him space.
Yeah.
The person will quit or will ask for more salary. So at the end of it, it is the other generation that knows one. It wants to make us understand this is good to do without giving reasons.
Yeah, we'll talk about the toxic work culture. Let's read some of the comments for you first. The question is, Jambona Gen Zs wanna find it hard to cope na employment guidelines. We want some of your reactions as you think on, you know, what exactly happens in these corporate institutions. So Wanja M anasema, Driving Corporate Strategy and Governance. Okay, that is her title. This is such a well-balanced and thoughtful reflection, one that cuts through the noise, avoids the usual generation of blame game. The line mental health over meaningless hustle especially struck a chord as it echoes a much needed shift is now in how we view success and well-being at work. Still, I wholeheartedly agree that professionalism, reliability, respect, and a strong work ethic remains non-negotiable. The real challenge isn't choosing between Gen Z adaptability or traditional structure, but creating workplaces that can hold space for both, where flexibility thrives without compromising accountability, and where evolving values meet enduring principles. That's Wanja M. That's a weighty response, actually. So she says it's not about also adaptability with the Gen Zs, but where work ethics, matter the most. What do you think, Madam HR?
I think, as I said earlier, collaboration, in the sense that this is what we require from you, but also you're asking for these things. We have to find a middle ground, and everybody has to understand. You have to understand your boundaries as the employer and the employee, because if you're employee, you need that person. The workload and the kind of you're in a fast-paced environment, let's say. Yeah. So work is till 5 p.m. So when you're telling me you want to leave at 4 p.m., there's somewhere we're not aligning.
You're not at par. Next comment, David anasema, but remember you are growing, you'll never be a Gen Z forever. Okay. Jacqueline O'Donnell anasema, the lazy generation. Jacqueline, they are coming for you, Huko X. Sylvia Vicky anasema, we were hired somewhere as a call center sales agents recently, so of course they prefer Gen Zs because of twinging, tukafanya training, nesting ikaanza, then pressure ikazidi. After 1 month, let's just say first cycle yote, we left. And now they are on a continuous vicious cycle of hiring and being ghosted due to toxicity and unrealistic expectations. I think we were talking about the next part should be about toxicity in the workspace. Another Derek Barracks and some shortcuts. So Tieno Nyango, Elizabeth, because millennials vumilia BS, most of them are boss pleasers, and yet wanna test. So I agree with you. We should talk. Blessed Alam anasema juu inasemekana ni vigumu kuwa controlled. Some really weighty answers.
You see on that comment of Tieno, they don't take in bullshit.
Yeah.
Now, let's go back kidogo. During the time of Kina Patrick,
it's a good specimen today.
It's the time when even the government taking people to the universities, they used to be forced to courses, and they could go. You have chosen medicine, you'll be taken to agriculture, and they will go for 4 years.
Yeah.
Can you do that for Gen Z's, right?
Yeah, even me, I can't. Yeah. Another one says, I'm a millennial, but I live freely like Gen Zs. I support the freedom to choose how to work as long as you're productive. I think we can cap it at that because it's a paragraph. And the last one down there says, Tom Nyakwara Yeta Odawa. This generation calls it like it is. They feel they're on top of the world and no channel of hierarchy or authority scares them. They don't endure frustrations and exploitations for the sake of convenience. We can cap it at that. Ni ujinga tupendi. Yeah, so you can see these things are prominent in the feedback. But then let's shift it shortly to toxic work culture, since it has been mentioned and I had mentioned it. What makes the workspace extremely toxic for these youngins? They'll be like, hi, no thank you, see you in heaven. Yeah.
I think toxic workplace depends on whose, what do you call it? It depends from whose viewpoint is the workplace toxic, because what I could consider toxic is totally different from what you could consider toxic. And therefore, if you put it into context, I would be able to respond more objectively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Toxic, let me throw it to Madam HR. Let me bring in this aspect. It's a very interesting aspect. There's something called loud quitting, and it's now common with Gen Zs, where they express dissatisfaction with the job the way it never met their ambitions, their dreams, and it was draining. So what they'll do is they'll record a video on camera and post it on social media saying, HR, Skylar was so mean to me. She always, told me to dress up the way she wants, not the way I want. This job is toxic, so if you want to work for this company, know that you'll be frustrated. And it's posted on social media, it goes viral. That could possibly dent, let's say, the image of the company, But then on the other side as well, it's informing the oncoming victim to say in that context. Yeah. Don't you think that can put a company at stake in a sense that if the workspace is toxic, you need to let others know if you're coming here, just know that you'll meet fire and fury.
Honestly, yes, it does put the company in a bit of a jam, because honestly, it's portraying that this workplace is not good. Like, it's just a poor culture. I wouldn't go so much as say toxic. You know, toxicity is a whole different thing. As Kimani said, this how I define toxic is maybe not how you define toxic.
Yeah. So there's people who love to be micromanaged and be followed all the time.
I think
keep
we're
up with
missing
it.
the point. I think we're missing the point
Yeah.
because looking at the example you've mentioned, this lady says the HR doesn't want me to dress how I want. She can allow me to use her as an example, right? If you don't mind. You see how she's dressed at this interview. Very modest. She's coming to a national television. She'll be in public. Why would she come to a place like this dressed this way? And then when you come to work, you want to come dressed in a crop top.
Yeah.
And
There's workspaces where they can dress in crop tops.
Well, if depends on the with the organization. And you see, you can't work in a corporate world and still expect to wear as if you work in a club.
Yeah.
You get.
Especially if you're an influencer and you're influencing for a big company, they want you to dress in a crop top.
Exactly.
Yeah,
No, that is the whole point. You know, somebody who prefers to, you know, wear more casually and dress in a way that we would consider inappropriate in our industry and in the eyes of our stakeholders, especially clients, will be in the wrong place to work in our organization.
So fashion is not welcome in the corporate space. That's what you're saying.
Sorry?
Fashion is not welcome. You
Depends
should
with the
dress
type of fashion.
Like for
Depends
you,
with the type of depends with the type of fashion.
Suit and tie is corporate.
Because-
really corporate, yeah.
Because let us look at it this way. I will maybe, this is an example and it doesn't apply to me. Maybe let's actually use another person. They are okay with you wearing crop tops and coming with Crocs at work and, you know, ragged
Crocs
tees and all that.
extreme kidogo pia.
Yes. No, this is the example. This person does not mind. However, on the image of their customers, this is inappropriate. That means they will be losing business. I don't have a problem with how you wear, but our customers have a problem with how you wear. So how do you strike a balance? Because we will lose business. And in that case, I'll come up with a dress code and the dress code policy that aligns with the culture of our organization, not majorly because of how I want you to dress, but because of the industry and the expectations of our stakeholder.
And
And a person who does not understand, who does not allow, or that is not the sense of fashion, will be like, oh, this is toxic. And that is why I believe organizations
So toxic
need...
is, you would say, it's relative to
It's
the person.
very contextual. However, there are some people who are very difficult to work with.
Yeah.
Both employees and both employers. There's employers who will be on your neck all the time. They will have an issue with every single thing, including how you sneeze.
Yeah.
And they will micromanage you all the time. I mean, that is a toxic person to work with. And at the same time, they're toxic employees. You know, you give them work and they're always on TikTok and they're not a social media manager. And by the end of the day, they have not delivered and the client will be there saying, we gave you work and you can't deliver.
Yeah. So are we staring at, we are actually out of time. It's a minute left so that we exit, so there'll be no parting shots. But Madam HR, do you think we are staring at a work future or the future of work where as time goes by, there's like work, let's say youth erasure or Gen Z erasure in the workspaces? It's more of millennials who can adapt and continue being there. Or we are going to see more startups that are more remotely oriented. You can work from home, be an influencer, but you still are a voice in our organization shortly.
I think I would put it is that how it's coming up, there are going to be millennials, of course. I think they also form a slightly big percentage of the workspace. But also Gen Zs are coming up and working in the workspace. It's just more or less, it will be kind of a shift in the workplace norms, I'd say.
Okay. So, let's say on social media. 1 second. If you are on social media, LinkedIn for that matter.
Mike Otakwa, that is on TikTok and on Instagram.
Okay. Yours, Madam HR.
Skyland Dumba on LinkedIn.
Okay, make sure you check her Skyland Dumba on LinkedIn.
Kimani Patrick on all platforms.
Kimani Patrick.
Same face.
All right. Including LinkedIn.
Yes.
Thank you. This conversation is endless. I feel like it needs more time. Because the unemployment issue is a menace in our country, and it's an endless and continues to be unresolved. We can see people being, taken to other countries, and story for another day. But thank you so much. I've been speaking to Skyland Dumba. She's lead HR and admin at JC Visa, alongside Anneli Mike, I'm a DIC and assessor, Kimani Patrick, CEO, Carlstick Group Limited. Thank you both, and I trust we can have a part 2 of this conversation sooner. Cindy?
Thank you.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I just want to thank you as well for watching us from exactly 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. We'll absolutely see you tomorrow. I and my co-host Stephanie Ayeta, bright and early at Brian Sakwan 1 at Y254 channel. See you tomorrow. Have a fantastic Monday.
Y254. Imagine.